Parenthesis. I think they announced their album.
What?
What is happening? Yes. BTS
Seriously?
new album. B. Yeah. On Twitter. Pre-order start on Monday. Oh, I
What?
mean, I'm not gonna pre-order it.
Today is the day that we're gonna talk about the notes 1 and 2 together.
Yay.
I read them both a couple of days ago, non-stop. So things can kind of get messed up in my mind, especially in this kind of book where we have time loops. So
Yeah.
please forgive me if I make any mistakes in the things that I remember.
No, I'm gonna be the least reassuring I could be right now and say that kind of same, because I had read Notes 1 last year and then I thought, okay, I need to read it. I feel like because I read both of them back to back again, I'm pretty sure I know what happens in each book, but yeah, it's fine. We're just here to talk about impressions and, just share our excitement, I guess, because we're both very into this story. So yeah.
So let me ask you, which did you prefer? Do you have a preference in the books?
I do. I think I still like book 1 a lot better. Maybe not a lot better, but I do like it a bit better. I think it was different writers, which you can sort of tell a little bit from the style, but then again, obviously we are reading the English translation, so it might have also been a translation issue because I don't know who translated it. I couldn't find it on the copy. It's a mystery. But I did feel like book 2 was a lot more plot heavy than book 1. Book 1 was a little bit more about, well, it was also because it's things that we already knew. So it is quite a different experience reading book 1 and having the visuals from it, from all the MVs. It's sort of like a companion to the MVs, more like, whereas book 2 just advances the plot and goes forward from there. Obviously, we don't know if we're going to get any videos that will relate to that in the future. We might not. I don't know. Yeah, I know. So yeah, it's kind of like a different experience, but yeah, I think I prefer the plot of book 1 a bit more because it's just quite a bit simpler. So yeah, how about you?
I really liked book 1. Like you said, it filled in some gaps, and it was great having a fuller picture of what was going on. But then book 2 had some scenes that were so intense for me. So I think I will go with the second book because it brought out a much more intense emotional reaction from me.
Yeah.
That's why.
I think there were a couple of moments in book 1 where I teared up reading it, but in book 2, I can't remember tearing up in any of them. I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah. So I guess we're very much the opposite, which is interesting. Yeah.
It's always like this.
As usual. Yeah, I know.
As usual, yes. So we have these 7 boys, these 7 characters, and do you have a connection with anyone's journey? Do you feel for someone specifically more, or have you? I don't know, because for me, I found many quotes that resonated with me. Either I found them inspirational, or I found truth in them for me. So what about you? Did you have anything like that?
So I really so there's a moment, and it's not one of those grand emotional moments, I suppose, but there is a moment that really stuck with me, and I remembered it since the first time I read it. I actually took a photo as well. I had it on my phone, and I would read it from time to time. So there's this it's the first time that Hosok talks about his part-time job and why he does it, and why he likes working customer service and he likes to push himself to be happy every day. And I have a very similar experience about working customer service myself, and why I started doing it and why I quite enjoy it. And obviously, yeah, people will be mean to you and whatnot, and he addresses that in his little bit. But then he says, overcoming that is quite rewarding. And I don't know. I feel like I've never had that explained in such a nice and simple way before, but like it was just a very simple truth that I found in it that I quite liked. Yeah, honestly, that's the one that stood out to me the most. Just how stop talking about customer service. How are you?
I think for me, the thing that stood out was Jin's relation to his parents and Namjoon's relation to his parents. Like how they both kind of have this complicated uh, connection to them. Jin's father is cold and his mother is indifferent, for example, but he still wants to do his best and kind of prove himself to them in a way, be how they want him to be. While Namjoon, wants to leave everything behind and be free from all that, but he also, at the same time, is not able to turn his back to his family.
Yeah.
But even though he knows that about himself, he cannot stop struggling over it. So yes, I really liked reading about these kinds of relationships. I found them very intriguing.
Was there like a part of the book that really stood out to you?
You mean as a story point, or like something that I read that I thought, that's a good quote. Let me note it down.
Not necessarily a quote, more like a plot point. Yeah, like a moment, I suppose.
Let me just check my notes. So first of all, I really loved the part where they go to the beach the first time.
God.
It holds such desperation in it for me. Like, okay, you can tell me how you feel about it afterwards, but like for me, it just shows really that hope is the last thing that leaves you. Like, no matter what they have been through, all of them, and no matter how they say that they don't have any dreams or there's nothing that they hope for, the moment the drilling sounds started, they all also started to shout out something that they actually had in their hearts and they hoped for.
Yeah.
Just loved that. And I took a note of Jungkook, for example. No, Jungkook specifically, because he just finished the narration with amidst the thundering, drilling sound, I couldn't even hear what my dream was. And I was like, my heart, because it just shows a state of mind that you really, can't figure yourself out and what it is that you actually want and what it is that you actually hope for.
But yeah, let me just say that I really agree with what you said about the whole thing at the base. It's one of my favorite moments of the books as well. Yeah, and just them and the fact that I think it was Jungkook's narration, and he acknowledged the fact he's like, we're walking and it's like so hot and we're just exhausted and like dripping with sweat, and we're going to this rock that grants your dreams, makes your dreams come true, and we don't even have dreams, so like why? But they just couldn't stop themselves, just kept walking, and he's questioning it, but they just keep going. And yeah, it was desperation. Yeah, it was very emotional actually. But yeah, what one of my favorite things in both books, again, it's from the first one, and it's the Namjoon plot line where he's in that village and he works as a delivery boy, and he is running up and down the snowy slope, and then he has this other kid that he just calls taken just to murder us and himself. Yes, I don't know why he does this, but yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and it's just so tragic what happens to the other kid and the kind of guilt he has to deal with himself and how trapped he feels in that whole situation. And I especially love the scene where he has the dogs at the end of his street that keep barking at him no matter what he does, no matter how long he's lived there, the dogs are always gonna bark at him. And it's just like those details that like make his life almost unbearable there. You can really feel that. And yeah, I remember when I first read that book, it was last December, and it was quite cold. And I remember feeling very cold and like reading this and just feeling the cold from the book. But when I mean, now I'm obviously quite cold, but when I was reading it earlier this week, it wasn't that cold, but I still felt quite chilled to, like, my bone, because, yeah, you just feel that mood, I guess, that just suits winter so well. And yeah, so there's the scene where he carries his dad on his back, and his dad calls his name, and he ignores him, and he says initially, I pretended not to hear. And reading it at first, you think, oh, he just means that, he wanted to tell him something, but Namjoon ignored him because he never did. But it turns out that he had told him, to just run away. And it's just, I don't know, I love that moment. It broke me both times I read it, honestly, because there's this man who is, he is so aware that, like, his son is doing his best to, like, take care of him, and he's, probably his lifeline, to be honest, because Namjoon is the one who pays for the bills, the hospital bills, everything, but he's like, just leave, because this shouldn't be your life. And yeah, it was very, very sad.
Yes,
And he does. He runs away. So,
that was a
but
very.
then you books you find out that he doesn't, because he still pays for their bills. But it's okay. At least he doesn't live with them anymore. So
At least he went
he's
elsewhere,
escaped
you
that
know,
black hole, I guess, of desperation.
somewhere where he doesn't have to deal with the nuisances of every day. I remembered one scene that I really loved as well. Two scenes that I really loved. They were both an outburst from the characters. And the first one is Taehyung, who basically kind of has this outburst towards Jungkook, and just tells him that, what the fuck, like, you shouldn't be living this way, like, you deserve the best, you're doing your best. I just love that.
Oh, I remember that.
He needed to hear this. He needed to hear something like that. And then the second one was J-Hope. Like, oh, sorry, he's not J-Hope.
He's always J. Maybe that's his, like, stage name as a dancer.
So, like, where how is he called? Like, Hosok? Is he Hosok all the time, or is he like?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, when he has hurt his ankle and, like, he's not doing well, things have gotten worse for the ankle and stuff, and he bumps into drunk Yoongi, and like, when he lashes out and just, hits Yoongi with all those facts, and, like, we are all going through shit. We are all having our own very, very serious problems. And maybe you should stop self-pitying and just try to pull yourself together. And how, it connects to him always trying to reach out to Yoongi and, like, try to welcome him back after he has these, periods of self-pity and self-harming and stuff. And I just loved that scene, and it did bring him out of his funk. Like, it really snapped him out of it. Also, I think it's a great thing to show, because there are many people out there who just keep everything inside and try to be there for other people, and they try to be there for other people again and again and again and again without ever having their own release of emotion. And sometimes, even if they do, they feel guilty about it. Like, I shouldn't have, expressed the way I felt because of this and that, because what if that other person has a problem with it, etc. And I think it was great to see, first of all, Hosok exploding like this and like spitting some truth, and also showing what kind of effect it had on Jungi, and also showing how Hosok like taking his time to find himself, like recover on his own without distractions, without having to like put on a facade for others. I loved it. Yes. That was like a beautiful scene for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, same. I really love those plot lines, and I love that like in both of the time loops explored by the two different books, you have Hosok taking some time to like leave the city and like leave the city for the first time, and really kind of like discover a new part of himself where he just lives for himself and he makes his decisions based on just what he wants and not what other people need from him. And yeah, it was really cool to see him go through that and understand some things about himself. And like the fact that he was also, I think he was always aware that like, okay, you know, I am putting other people first, or him saying, oh, you know, he is the glue that keeps the group together, because he is, and he'll be one of the first ones to text all the time. And you know how he left and that chat became quiet because he wasn't there to initiate the meeting or initiate them at least starting online. And yeah, he just took them time to just prioritize himself. And yeah, he was aware, but he still, I guess, didn't want to give himself that chance, because it was like, oh, you know, well, I'm fine because my narcolepsy wasn't even true, you know, and it's okay. My mom left me, but I have a home. So yeah, all of these things are, you know, like I have a job and I'm not struggling financially necessarily. Like, oh yeah, but then he was just giving too much of himself to other people. Yeah, he's great. I love his character. He's probably my favorite, to be honest. I was gonna say I was fully ready when reading this book to like someone else, because in the music videos he's not as interesting to me as like Yoongi, for example. But no, I'm sorry.
But
I'm
no.
sorry. I just had to be me again.
So I wanted to say a few other things, if you don't mind. And it's about Jane. The prologue was really important to me in the first book, where it just shows his nature to like take action and help his friends, from like that he is like a good person, yes, who wants to help his friends. But you see his dad, and just a small parenthesis, but while I was rereading it, you see that it's when Jin tries to defend his friend and trying to ask for help for his friend, that his dad gets the blank expression that he is known for. Because before you could see like he's tired of that. So you can tell that he was kind of triggered the same way Jin is later on. And he had the blank expression when into friends. But the thing that I wanted to note is the word good in relation to Jin. How his wish is to be a good person. And at the same time, he's told by his father, you know, be a good child, like what, be a good kid. Yes. I think that Jin went through like this struggle between being a good kid and a good person, because these two, someone would assume, are overlapping, but they're not. So in order to be a good kid for his dad, he's not a good person. And also I wanted to note that later on, when he goes when he goes to the school for the first time with his father, to the principal's office, and they both tell him, first of all, that the school is a dangerous place that needs to be controlled. Now, I don't want to go to the father's story yet, but also, wow. And what I wanted to say about this was that the word good is used against Jin again. Like, be a good student. Be a good student. And then is what he's told. And as soon as Jin says, yes, of course, for example, they both laugh. Why? Why do they laugh? But anyways, again, the word good was used against Jin. Be a
I
good
don't know.
student or be a good person.
Hmm.
Those two things do not overlap again. Like poor Jin, he just wants to be good, but what kind of good?
Yeah. I would like it noted first of all that you before Notes 2 came out, you were like on it with Seokjin's dad. You were like, there's something going on there. And to be honest, I didn't really pay attention to him in the first one. I was just like, he's, like, to me, he seemed like, oh, wait, no, but there's a moment, I guess, in the book where he says, everything started from here, and it's like his name in the classroom turned storage room. But at the same time, so yeah, there was definitely a hint there. For some reason, I just forgot about it, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know, like for me it seemed like the classic sort of like oppressive father that kind of helps the main character's development, like the kind of character that isn't really a character on their own, they're just part of someone else's story basically. But no, it turns out that he actually does have a character that's important. So yeah, that was very interesting.
I just wanted to discuss this part, if you're willing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we have read the second book, we know that Jim's dad went through the same thing that he is going through, and went into a loop trying to like find his friend, and how that basically
Mm-hmm.
drove him a bit crazy until he discarded his memories. So like, why is he acting this way with Jin? Is my question. Is it because he had this kind of experience that he wants his son to not have any friends, basically, so that he won't go through this? Also, who was Jin snitching on? Was it just his friends? Was it people who went to the room?
I think it said that like, so I don't think he was like working for the principal or anything like that. I think it was just like his dad knew that he was hanging out with this crowd being like kids from working class families and orphans and whatnot, and it's like, oh, this is not respectable. And so he, I guess, felt pressure to show his dad that no, these people are not important to me or something like that, I guess, to like protect them, I suppose. So then I remember that he says that he didn't intend for this to happen. Like he did tell the principal that they would go to that room, but then he told him at a time where he thought no one was gonna be there, so the teacher went there. But then it turns out that Yoongi and Jungkook were there, but Jin didn't expect them to be there at the time. So I don't think he was snitching on anyone in particular. I think it was more like about basically the principal reporting to his dad and saying, oh, he's hanging out with these kids. His dad being like, that's disappointing. That's not a very good kid of you. So then he felt like he needed to kind of like show that, no, actually, I am very good. Like, it's fine. I don't know. Like, that was my interpretation of it.
Let me ask you another
I
thing.
know. Okay.
We're going to painful territories, but like, I want to comment on something and then hear your opinion. Do you think Seokjin knew at all that he hit Jungkook with a car? Because personally, I don't think he knows.
Me neither. And like, well, it's weird, right? Because I'm wondering now if it was him. Like, was it him or not? Because I don't know, it feels weird for him to not know, but then at the same time, there was like the guy who reported him, right? And then he called the guy to threaten him to like drop the report. And then you hear about someone being like, oh, I was a witness, but then they like disappear. And I assume it's the guy, but Jungkook assumes it's one of the other guys, one of his friends. So it's just like, it's a mess. And like, obviously, Jungkook is in a very like twisted state of mind at the moment. So I honestly, I doubt that it was even Jane. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if it was Jane.
I think it could have been Jin. In the first one, in the first book, it does not show scene at that night. We don't have
Yeah.
like a diary entry. But in the second
Mm-hmm.
book, I was trying to find it before we had this discussion actually, but I didn't have time to. I think that what happened was his memories were triggered, and so he had this migraine attack while he was
Mm-hmm.
driving. So I don't think he was able to like have a clear image of the road. He was unable to see basically or to comprehend that he hit him.
Yeah.
If he did, disclaimer, if he did. Uh, yeah, we know that he hit like what was it? It wasn't traffic lights, it was something. So there was a dent on his car.
But also, can we go into Jungkook for a second? Because
Yes.
obviously, so okay, I have this thing. So you know how Seokjin was like in the second book. He says, "Oh, he talks about the accident. He says that he realized that the accident is something that happened outside of the time loop. So like he did try to change things before, but he realized that he actually had nothing to do with him.
Yes,
And
that's right.
I'm wondering because, yeah, because but then Jungkook obviously makes a deal of his own. So I'm like, is this because this is attached to something else? Is it a different time loop? Is it something else? But then the way he describes the thing that he makes a deal with, I feel like is different to what Seokjin made a deal with. It's not the cat, it's the moon. I don't know what it is, but
No, it's the cat. It's the cat.
is it?
I don't like. I remember him saying something about the light and like being green and blue, like the cat's eyes. Like at first, it's the moon, and
I
then,
think,
and then
yeah.
there is a form that has like the eyes.
So because I like, no, it was June. I don't know because I was looking for the cat because I'm like obsessed with the cat. But like I don't think it was, oh no, it was the 22nd of May. That's when it happened. I think. Yes.
Until you find it, let me just say
Mm-hmm.
about Jungkook that the moment I realized something was wrong,
Yeah.
was wrong. Yes, yes. Actually, that something had fundamentally changed with Jungkook was when he went
Yes.
to the roof of the hospital and
Mm-hmm.
he went into that trance that he did in the past when he was in high places and he was like,
Yeah.
you know, and that time things changed. Where was it? Yes, here it,
Mm-hmm.
the 22nd of July. And he says, I wouldn't die even if it were to make someone happy. Even if someone had to die, I had no intention of being that someone. So when he said that, I knew that something had fundamentally changed with Jungkook. It was like so different,
Yeah.
right? And it held that anger as well in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because in the first book, he gets told that essentially by Taehyun, but it's like after he's recovered, after he's left the hospital, when he follows him to his mom's home, and he has to tell him that, which you mentioned earlier. So yeah, I definitely. I don't know. What did he do? What did he make a deal with? I can't find it. This is very annoying. Obviously the first book doesn't mention the cat, so there's no point in looking for that. But the second one, I noticed that like Seokjin mentioned the cat, which we've seen in the TXT universe videos, and so I was like, oh my goodness, you know. So I was really looking to see if Jungkook was gonna describe the cat, and I remember that he doesn't, because I was very like really looking for it to see like, is it the cat, is it not? But yeah, but then you remember that he did, so I don't know.
It's not that he doesn't mention like the shape of the cat. I just remember
No, but like the two
the
colors. Yeah.
eyes. Yes, the eyes. We will have to
go through
say notes number
the
3.
book again.
But like now that this has happened with Jungkook, oh my God, when he went to the internet cafe and he was like, and he
Yeah.
let out all his frustration and anger, and he named the characters after his friends and started shooting them. Wow. Like he feels kind of possessed, like something
Mhm.
has entered his body. And I think maybe that could be, because there has been the mention of the upside down thing. And it's like,
Mhm.
after that experience, was it really Jungkook that came back in a way? Or is it a part of him trapped upside down?
Was it sort of like that he's reversed? Maybe he's like
Kind of like,
flipped
yes, the
because
reversed.
yeah, but I don't know that's not him. Maybe it's like yeah, like inside of him something has changed because yeah, he used to be sort of putting himself last and like he does the opposite and things like that. But
Like he
also, you know what?
allows. What?
Yeah. No, because okay, his entire bit in like the second notes, I'm like, dude, you need to get better friends because these guys, I swear to God, he goes to the hospital. Like, I'm gonna start it out now, but like, he goes to the hospital, and then you have them like hospital going like, I just realized we hadn't really paid attention to Jungkook. Why? Like, they just didn't really care. Like, no one cares about this kid. Literally, no one cares. Like, and you'd think Yoongi cares, but everyone takes him for granted, including Yoongi. Yoongi was just like, oh, well, whatever, it's just Jungkook, he'll come around. It doesn't, like, like, I'll tell him to come to my workroom. Of course he'll come running. No, and then he doesn't. And it's like, I'm like, you know what? Leave them behind. Like, they don't deserve you.
You know what?
Yeah, like,
Yes, well said.
like, his family, no one.
Yeah.
I mean, don't kill them, but, like...
I get they had all the map of the soul stuff going on, but the kid was in the hospital, like he was bordering dying. Hello? And
right?
I don't know. And they keep the truth from him as well. They could have just shared the situation with him. You cannot blame him.
I mean, don't kill them.
And he also
But,
tested.
yeah, I would be mad.
Maybe he's mad, but he also gave them chances, Like he gave them the chance to talk about it. He gave them the chance by being there, going to the container, but Jin never mentions the car accident. They never mention the car accident. And since he believes that they do know about it,
Yeah,
that
I know.
of course. And then
Or
also goes at the fireworks. I think that this was his way of like hoping and like desperately hoping that they would address this, that they would like recognize the situation, that what happened. No one does. And like you said, no one actually pays attention to him.
yeah. And also, if they'd like filled him in to the whole map of the soul thing, whatever, I feel like he might have felt like, okay, they're not like blind to me. They've been doing something else. You know what I mean? Like they had important things happening, fine, but then yeah, and they were all aware that there was something like supernatural going on, but like he wasn't necessarily. And then Jin is like, oh, by the way, I've been traveling in time, and everyone else is kind of like, well, we've seen some shit at this point, so I guess. But then Jungkook is like, came out of nowhere.
Because he was he was out of the loop throughout the whole thing. He doesn't know about Taehyung's dreams. He doesn't know about anyone's experiences. So yeah, the things that checked out with the others, like you said, don't check Jungkook. And that's why, of course, I'm waiting for the next book to be about Jungkook's journey. And I hope, I don't know, will it be like a journey of him growing as a person, realizing things for himself, or will it be a book about them trying to help him, let's say, after realizing that something is actually really wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I really want to see what happens with Jungkook and how they will connect it to the others and how it will play out.
Yeah. God, I know. I know, and I feel like, and I hope at least, like that's my my dream. But that means that they're kind of like looking to connect the BTS universe with the TXT universe. Obviously, I think that's kind of confirmed by the fact that the cat is present in both of them. So, oh my god. But also the fact that like now we're going a different direction with the Bangtan Universe as well, and you don't have the time loop and like Jin's whole story and the flowers again. So like that has been resolved. So now we move to a different direction, which might have to do with the TXT universe, which we don't really know anything about at this point. I guess it's just kind of like, who the hell knows? Yeonjun dies multiple times or something. The cat is after Yeonjun. I don't know, but yeah, obviously that would be a whole different discussion. But yeah, I'm really really hoping that that means they're gonna be connected.
Uh,
Oh,
I
that's horrified.
maybe before we go to TXT, mention something else that I really liked that I forgot to mention. I just love the fact that, okay, wait, I think it was Jane who mentioned it. My note. But like, it's about Namjoon and how, okay, let me just read this quote, okay? The light streaming from the container looked like some kind of signal. A signal that guides us when we're lost, a signal that points to shelter when we have nowhere to go, and a signal that illuminates the friends that stand by us. And I just loved that. It was a Jin entry. And it fits so well with later on when Namjoon had the fight with Taehyung and like they were all kind of drifted apart again, and he kept his lights on just to show that, you know, he's there and this is a place where they can go. It was like so beautiful.
Yeah,
So
very lovely.
we haven't addressed what happened with Jimin. Like I assumed it had to do with child abuse in
Yes.
some way. That was unfortunately one of the things that I kind of expected would have happened, either to someone else and Jimin would have witnessed it, or also like to him. I was speculating that maybe it just happened to him. But yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't know, maybe that's just like my brain, but like I expected it to be a lot more gruesome than it actually was. But obviously I'm sure there's a certain rating with this book and they couldn't just go full gore or something. But you know, and I thought that he was hurt himself, or he witnessed a murder, he witnessed something, you know. Not that what he witnessed wasn't traumatizing, but the fact that like I just had kind of like, I guess I had thought of the source of like his suffering was what he had seen, but it was more about how he reacted to it and how he ran away and he let that kid suffer. And I think a lot of it is about that, and then it reads into his like thing about being good, which, you know, also comes from the fact that his parents absolutely refused to have a mentally ill kid, and they were like, lock him away, and you know, until he becomes normal again. So, and then, you know, the nurses obviously, you know, treating him more like better, I guess, when he wasn't acting up. So he learned how to just internalize everything and be good and appear good. But I think it also might come back to the fact that like at that time he very much was not good, because he just let that kid, like, left him to his fate. you know. And I think that's what he needed to witness. And yeah, he did need to like go back and sort of like find his younger self and tell him, you'll be okay one day. It will be terrible for a while, but you will be okay. But the fact that like what made him have that seizure that locked him out in the hospital again for 2 years was the fact that he actually saw that kid again on the bus. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with like, yeah, his inability to sort of react at the time to what he saw.
And honestly, he was like 7 years old. What?
Yeah, no.
He was like petrified. By the way, when he actually went back to face this whole thing, the way his story was told, and when like it reaches the end and it says that there was no raining, that it was just all in his mind because he was just reliving it, chills. It impacted me a lot. Yes, it was
Yeah.
it was a very strong moment.
Oh, something about Yoongi that he said that I found interesting. In the second book, he says that so it's interesting because obviously you have Taehyun, who obviously remembers, not remembers, but like he dreams of all the different time loops, but everyone else doesn't. But I feel like everyone else might have a sense that they've been through all these things again, because Yoongi says this thing where he says that he feels like he's been through things with these people and he feels connected to them, even though that isn't necessarily the case. Like at that point, they haven't really been through anything together, but he feels very close to them, as if they've bonded over something traumatic. And which is true, it's just obviously that's not the current time loop, but somehow I feel like the feelings of everything else is carried over to, like, just keeps carrying over through to the different time loops, maybe, which would be interesting. But that's kind of like the only moment where you feel that thing. He just has that moment. But yeah, Yoongi got his shit together in the second book. He was great. Like, honestly, he's, I think, the one that I would have the least to talk about in the second book, because yeah, I don't know, he survives his attempt to suicide. And is it the fact that he gets injured that snaps him out of it? Because he does in the other time loop as well, but then he falls back into drinking and isolating himself and trying to write his music and not finding inspiration and all of that. But in the second book, he gets injured, and then he finds a job that just keeps him busy, so he keeps himself from drinking. So I wonder if the fact that he actually got marked by that attempt and he felt the pain afterwards, like a physical pain, not just the emotional one, made him sort of think things through differently. I don't know. I'm just going off now, sorry.
No, I think though that it's interesting that, yes, it's like, it's like with the time loops, yes, that somewhere they all have the experiences with them that they went through in a time loop. That it's not things that are erased, let's say. Oh, I think that you do have a point, that kind of the fact that they went through all these time loops, it did have a sort of effect on them.
No, I just wanted to say it was like the accumulated neglect that Jungkook experienced through all of the different time loops, because it's not like he's particularly cared for in the first one either. So maybe it was just that broke him at the end. Anyway, yes, please. A little thought leave my head.
A lot of thoughts. I wanted to say before that I really enjoyed Taehyung's character throughout the two books, but especially in the second one, and how he would like take action and like try to reach out to everyone and check things, like asking if Yoongi still plays with his lighter, and like the way he dealt with everything. I really liked it.
Yeah. No, Taehyun was like, I feel like he's the one that maybe, well, not to compare because they're all very different situations, I suppose, but he does have it tough, and he doesn't let them break him. You know, he'll be a bit more proactive about it, I suppose. Which, you know, in a lot of times translates to him killing his dad, because that's the sort of the problem. That's a solution for sure, but obviously, you know, better to avoid that one. But yeah, he's a very strong kid. Actually, he's a very strong character.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice? Because I feel like in the in the first one, in the first book, I feel like they were all more like paired up, so it kind of felt like you had, you know, Namjoon and Taehyung having like a special connection, and then Jaemin and Hoseok and Jungkook and Yoongi. But in the second book, that wasn't the case as much anymore. Which I wonder if that's like a result of the time loops, of just like a choice made by the writer. I don't know, but it was interesting because like they felt a bit more like a group of friends rather than just like all these different pairs, and like they kind of, obviously they get more bonded because they have more things in common, and you know, they do end up saving each other. There's different sort of like variations that you have, but yeah, but I did like the second one where you had everyone interacting with each other a bit more, not just, you know, Hoseok and Jaemin at the hospital and then at the dance group and all of that. You just had like, you know, Jaemin and Yoongi actually quite a bit solving things together and going to see. Yoongi was really supportive of Jaemin and all that.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was him that Jimin asked twice to go with him when he wanted to deal with certain things,
Mm-hmm.
certain things. Yes,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I really liked it. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like you said, you also have this moment with like Jungkook and Taehyung. And I really liked also the fact that Namjoon and Jin have this kind of understanding of each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
how Namjoon was understanding of what happened at the school with Jin. It's like, oh, there must be a reason.
Yeah.
And also how they also went out to that bar, if you remember, and they discussed.
Oh, yeah. But it's interesting that that is a thing that always happens in every time loop. Like, that is an important moment that no matter how it happens, it will always happen. Namjoon will call him and they will go out. So it's very interesting because it like you can see that like something stems from that. Something happens. Like that moment needs to happen for other events to take place that are also probably fixed in the time loop.
Oh, and may I tell you, remember when I meant
Yeah.
the moment I thought I was sure that something was going on with Jungkook, there was also a moment I was sure 100% there was something seriously wrong with Jin. Jin is like, I am here with these people, his friends, okay, while I could have been in the meeting uh, for the project,
Redevelopment.
which really shows how the shift of Jin to someone like his dad.
I wonder though if that's also because he realized that like, you know, at that point they've been through the April 11 event, so he's saved everyone, and then you know he's at the part of the time loop where like nothing happens up to September 30th, where he now needs to save Namjoon, and that happening has to do with the redevelopment project. So I wonder if he's like, okay, you know, hanging out with them doesn't matter because what matters is for me to see everything that's happening in the redevelopment project. Not necessarily because he cared at this point, because I don't think he did anymore, but it was more like he still had the purpose, if only to get himself out of it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, that his motive now is himself at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the story. And it's
No, yeah.
like the first clue we got was that what he learned, there was a point where it was said what he learned from the continuous time loops was that he himself had to get out of it alive. It was very
Mm-hmm.
to him.
What was the point of Jane being given a time loop? Like, if he were to, like, pay the price, and the price just being him losing his memories and becoming a very cold, calculating whatever person. Who has anything to gain from that? Does someone gain something from this? Because, if you make a deal for the devil, I feel like the devil will have to gain something out of it. But, like, what does the cat gain? Like, what was the point of, like, Jane just losing his memories and becoming a cold person? The only person that had, like, a detriment to was himself. So I don't really know. But obviously there's, like, nothing to go off to, like, make theories about this. Is literally nothing. But, so I just have this unanswered question. The other thing is that, so was it that, like, if he let himself, so he would either have to save his friends to get out of the time loop, or he could let everyone die, and that would also stop the time loop. Because I guess that's what his dad did, because he kept failing and failing, and then eventually his friend that went missing or whatever it was, because, he did lose his memory, sure, but he still got out of the time loop. So, like, how did his dad get out of the time loop? Was it just, he just let whoever it was die? He just didn't save anyone and was like, I don't care anymore? Would that have stopped it? But then no, because it restarts it. So if he fails, the time loop restarts. So, like, how did his dad get out of the time loop?
I think in the question that you say,
Yes.
as the cat, for example, or the devil, or whatever that force is gain, I think it could be that they earn, like, they feed off someone's feelings, someone's connections, bonds, or memories. So maybe they just feed on that. Maybe that's the goal. I think that if Jin was left the way that he was, without his memories being triggered and his consciousness being triggered, that there wouldn't be another time loop. Because the point was for him to not have regrets.
Yeah.
That's the force that created the time loops. He had regrets over his friends, at least in my opinion. He had regrets over the course of his friends' lives, like the way they ended up and his role in it. So he had regrets for that. He wanted to make it right. He wanted to bring the good times back. Every time they had an unfortunate event, the time loop would begin because it would be a regret for him. But when the last time loop comes and he has lost his memories, he does it out of I think, body memory. He has done this many times that he naturally wants to follow through the plan, just mechanically. This has to happen. And at the end, even if Namjoon did die on the 13th of September, I think at that point, even if he failed, he had reached a point where, with no memories, he had no basic feelings for them anymore. He didn't feel the connection with them. So he wouldn't really have regrets. And I think the time would just keep on going and the little devil would have won. And maybe, just maybe, it's because of that the little devil grabbed on Jungkook. Perhaps the cat. Let's not call it a devil.
Yeah, I don't really know if he would have ended, because his whole thing is like, oh, I don't care about these people anymore. Like, I don't have to care about them. I just have to save them just so the time loop ends, so I can get out of it. So yeah, maybe his dad got to the point where he kept failing. He kept, like, losing his emotions. So yeah, I think what you're saying about regret makes a lot of sense, actually. That, one way or another, he doesn't have any regrets anymore. But it might just be that, like, this wouldn't have been the last one, because I think he would just have to let everyone die for him to, like, get out of it, to just witness them all lose everything and get to the point where he was in the beginning and be like, you know what, I don't care. Like, they brought it upon themselves. Why do I have to be the one to, like, keep saving them? Which is a fair point, to be honest. And the fact that, like, that was not something that was sort of explored at all, I mean, it's fine. It went a different direction as opposed to what I was expecting, but it was sort of like they need to learn to save themselves. But that was never the case. It was always like, oh, Jane will save them.
during the scene at the beach, the beginning, where they shout out the dreams, right? After that, Jin goes to Jungkook and tells him that your dream that you yelled out, it will come true, is what he says.
Oh
And
my God.
yes, and I think that will be the topic of the next book. Like, what kind of dream did Jungkook have?
Mm,
And how, he's
yeah.
he's going to develop in that book. I want to ask you
So,
your guesses. Who do you think is gonna be like the person that will actually help Jungkook? Will it be himself
um,
or the others? Someone specific?
can I first make a general guess on the book? Because I had this, I mean, I don't think that was what's going to happen because I'm going off of nothing. But I was like, what if? But I don't think it will genuinely happen. Disclaimer. But picture this. Because Jungkook wants to kill them, let's say, he does in the book, he feels quite murderous at this point. So like he also gets into a time loop. But his time loop is about him basically being responsible for everyone's death from the beginning. So like, you know what I mean? So like,
Oh my
you know what I mean? So Jungkook was the villain all along. That's like my obviously I don't think that's gonna happen, but
Oh my god.
can you imagine though? Yeah, and obviously like I mean can you imagine? Like I don't think that's gonna, I think they're gonna move past like I think we're gonna see new dates in the next book. By the way, you know what it was? Because I always like I never check, like I don't check the ending of the book or anything, but I always want to know exactly how many pages the book is, just so I can keep track of where I am. So I'll always go to the last page and just look at the number. And sometimes I will spoil myself, but it's okay. In this book, I saw at the top that it was Jungkook, and like the date was like crossed out, like it had the X's instead of like he
Yes.
didn't know the date. Which is awesome. But what I thought, seeing this, not having read the book yet, was like, oh, okay, I guess that means the time loop is resolved. So, you know, this is like in the future where everything is fine. It's very naive of me to think. But obviously that is the opposite of that, what actually happens. But yeah, you know, that's alright. But yeah, I think it will be the case, to answer your actual question, I think it will be the case of like Jungkook having to save himself the way that Jin was the one who had to make the decision to save himself and get himself out of this. But at the same time, the whole theme of everyone's getting saved so far was that they were saved by each other. You know, they were all saved by Jane, who made it to sort of like initiated actions that meant that they basically all saved each other. So for it to be then, but the whole point was that like one of them needs to save themselves. It kind of like contradicts itself a little bit, but it already did that with Jin because you have. So honestly, I don't know. Could be either way. I hope it will be the case of him realizing that like, no, these people do care about me. Care? I don't think they do. Personally, if you ask me, Jungkook, but don't ask me. Yeah, and you know, they will like, or I think it will be them realizing that they care actually and go, you know what, we need to help this kid, and then go off and like help him help himself, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I answered anything. I'm confused myself.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
but it
don't
would be
really
really
know.
cool to have a time
It
loop
makes me
again with
sad.
Jungkook. Oh my god.
It's the villain. It's been the villain all along. No, I think it will just be heartbreaking because he's the little one and I will just cry. So,
Yeah.
can't wait. Genuinely can't wait. So, yeah.
But I think it's really important to see himself making the conscious choice of saving himself. So like,
Mm.
yes, he could have the support of the others around him, but it's him that would make that decision. Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
really
think
am
so.
looking forward to it. And I mean, I would love to have some music videos about the whole story, but I'm not very optimistic about it anymore.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah,
be
I
great.
know.
It would be
I
great,
think that,
but
yeah, they were of the age at the time. They were, early
exactly.
20s, and that was sort of like this like nostalgia for something that you've never experienced, and like this whole like youthful desperation, which they don't have anymore. They're more settled to themselves. They're just like, what?
You're right, because now they are at a different place. It would feel kind of odd to, and more performative, to see them
Mm-hmm.
go back to the story.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have the same impact, I think. Do you
Yeah.
think HYYH will be also in this universe with their music? And
Oh my God. I don't know. I didn't think about that.
can you
I don't
imagine?
know.
Oh my God. Well, we could have talked about many other things because there are a lot of things to talk about in these books, like a lot.
Yeah. But I
I think
like,
nice.
no, it's already like extremely long. Yeah. I think we went overboard for at least an hour.
Listen, when
But you know.
it's 2 hours, close to 2 hours that we're talking. But can you blame us?